Right now, the tension between Mr. Trump and the Republican establishment is extraordinary. How do you expect the Republican establishment to respond to Mr. Trump, given your support?
Well, it's hard to predict what they will do,
Sure.
and they won't all behave the same way. But the important thing for the American people to know is that they are at risk of an enormous recession. And Donald Trump has an economic plan to turn the economy around and produce the kind of business investment that will ensure a brighter future for America.
Our Joe Weisenthal put out a tweet last night calling Donald Trump the arch-Keynesian. In that this is a guy who's not a George Will or an Ed Burkean conservative. He's a guy with a different economic plan of massive stimulus. Is that what you see?
That's really not true at all. In fact, the people who are working for him, Art Laffer, Larry Kudlow, Steve Moore, David Malpass, are all Reagan supply-siders. And the essence of Donald Trump's plan is to lower corporate tax rates, to invite back some $3 trillion in earnings that should be repatriated at a bargain so that they will come back to the country, and to lower regulation, lift the oppressive regulations that have deterred business investment. Because if you look at what's happened to our economy right now, 1.2% GDP growth this last quarter, despite robust consumer spending.
That is true.
That's true. And why is it so bad? 3 consecutive quarters of declining business investment, quarter after quarter of declining corporate profits.
I want to go to the debate of the moment. Bring up the morning mustard. Stephen Mihm is one of our most esteemed American historians, and he has written a clinic on Richard Nixon's taxes. But then things unraveled, the revelation that Mr. Nixon's aide had backdated the deed of gift. This is 1969, and all of a sudden Nixon was hit with a huge tax bill at that time of near $500,000. I really recommend this column. How can we talk about Mr. Trump's economic policy when we are distracted by sideshows like his non-tax reporting or his approach to Speaker
Ryan?
First of
all, I'm not distracted, and I would urge the American
Most of America is, Betsy.
Well,
that's a fact.
You're doing a disservice if you encourage that, because the fact is most Americans want
My job is not to encourage, Betsy, my job is not to encourage anyone. The reality here is Republicans and Democrats are distracted by all of these distractions of Mr. Trump.
I disagree. They're going to begin to listen to the difference between Hillary Clinton's fair growth plan, which is mostly redistribution and very hostile to business investment, or Trump's turnaround plan, which will encourage much more prosperity and opportunity.
We need to get perspective from abroad the Atlantic. Francine Lacroix in London.
All right. And Betsy McCaughey, this is not a value in judgment, but most of European leaders, and actually I would argue most of the rest of the world, consider Donald Trump a joke. How do you attract investment in the U.S. if you have a president that is considered a joke by the rest of the world?
Because business leaders are going to make their decision based on tax rates, on the burden of regulation, and on the prospects for growth. And right now, the Obama administration has produced a recovery that is the worst since 1949. The worst. And why? Because if tax increases and business regulations such as Obamacare that are real job killers. Our average work week is down to 34 hours. You can't support a family on 34 hours a week.
Right, but Betsy McCaughey, when you look at the rhetoric from Donald Trump, this is a man that wants to look inwards. Again, it would cut trade off from the rest of the world, and there's almost no question about that, unless he does a 180 reversal.
Let me point out that Moody's Analytics just produced a report that confirms unambiguously that Hillary Clinton's economic plan would not encourage any increase in private sector investment. That is what is ailing this economy, the reluctance of business to invest. They are terrified. Listen to Hillary Clinton's fair growth proposals. More regulations on bonuses, on overtime, on hiring, on investment practices. Uncle Sam will be in every boardroom and looking over every manager's shoulder. That should send fright into the hearts of all business investors.